This is the Global Podcast Network, where executives and professionals connect, share, and inspire. Stay tuned for the conversations that drive success.
And welcome back. Going to give you very interesting insight today. And many of us, and especially if you found this podcast, you were doing searches, you were using keywords, and then we came up, and you're probably trying to figure life out, maybe figure you out. And we may be giving you some of the clues to that and what we're going to talk about today. Essentially, past life regression. We coming from another life or a life before the one here. I know it sounds a little woo, but we'll dig into that. It holds the keys and information to a lot of why we do what we do in this life. She is a somatic and spiritual psychologist, master somatic movement educator, and also clinical hypnotherapist. And it's so great to have her back with us with all this insight. Dr. Talia Shafir is back on the program. How are you doing today?
Fine, Steve. Thank you. Yeah, so today we're going to talk about past life regression therapy.
So and I'm on your page, but I'm going to take it from somebody just hearing this, trying to figure it all out. It is your belief that we lived other lives, correct?
Well, yeah, I mean, yes, it's my assumption. Let's put it that way.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And what makes you feel that way?
Training with Dr. Roger Wolger for several years and doing past life regression therapy. And I mean, there's yoga. You asked me about yoga last time, and in the context we were discussing, I kind of skipped over it because that didn't fit. But here it fits: yoga, prana, energy, chi in Chinese healing. There's connections, and very often we can go to therapy for years and address issues, but something is still there that is often resolved with past life regression therapy.
So with hypnotherapy itself, and I've experienced it, you can take us back to our childhood and we can see different things and maybe correlate, or as I say, connect the dots to life today, why we do certain things, why we have limiting beliefs, all coming from childhood. And during a hypnotherapy session, you kind of make that connection many times.
Mm-hmm.
This takes us back before this life. And essentially, would it be okay to say that the same type of thing happens? We learn things in a past life and how they may connect to this life.
Yeah, that is the major point here. It's not about what happened in the past. It's what of the past we still carry into the present.
Yes.
Yeah, that's the deal. We all think in linear terms because, if we're going to meet for dinner, we have to look at the clock, But there's many ways of thinking, Oriental ways of thinking. There's people in our own history like Morris Netherton, like Stanislav Grof. There's Gestalt. There's primal rebirthing. There's all kinds of things. There's all of this, resurgence of using psychedelics. What are we doing that for? Where are we going with that? So yeah, I mean, there's a lot of that. It's not necessarily, you don't have to. The good thing is this: you don't have to believe in past lives for this to work. That's the deal. You don't have to believe in this. You can be the biggest skeptic in the world. There's a part of me that's a skeptic, and you just have to give yourself into this story that you produce. So it's not about someone reading you. Oh, I see you in a past life of whatever. That's not about that. And it's not about hypnosis, not about, in this case, it's not about putting you in a trance and taking you back there. This is about looking for a portal into something that does not match what's going on in your present life, for instance. And um, an emotional reaction that is way above and beyond what's happening in the present. Now, granted, that could be an unresolved trauma from this lifetime, but very often that translates into something of the past. It can be words or a phrase that seems a bit out of place or is repeated often or has some emotional oomph to it. It could also be a physical piece, very often a physical piece, because the one of the major keys to Wolger's past life uh, theories and practice was Reichian body work. And Reich, of course, when Freud was, wanting to leave the physicality of it all and push the talk and the mental piece,
Hmm.
Reich said, no, 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 no. There's something that's being repressed here, and what's being repressed is life energy. It's being repressed by some kind of past piece, some kind of trauma, unresolved trauma. And he had his theory of orgone energy, and um, he said, if you don't address these, if we can't get them out of the body, the imprints of the body, then you are losing life energy. You're not living life with all that you can live it with. So Wolger took that into his mix of psychokinesis, psychodrama, Jungian imaginal realm work, and a lot of Tibetan Buddhist thought and yogic practice. It was very interesting. So it goes in a circle. If you come with with words, with a thought, the mental image, and then you find out what emotion is connected to that, and then you find out what part of the body is reacting to that. Um, it doesn't matter where you come into that circle, there will be those components and lead you back. It's really fascinating. I constantly have to remind myself when I enter into this realm with people, trust the process.
Mm.
Just trust the process. I mean, I can think you're going in one way or whatever. No, I gotta follow you. So, and there's a lot of examples in hands-on healing and therapeutic touch and things like that, where we're working with what some would call the etheric body. It's not just the physical body, but it comes into the physical body. And so, the story you produce, even though there may be parts and pieces from, oh, I saw this on Netflix, or, I read a book, or I'm making this up. Yes, you're making it up, but no one can make up exactly what you're making up from your own imagination, from what you glean and what your experiences have been. And a lot of times those experiences are past life experiences.
What
So
is
this
it?
is,
What
yeah.
does it feel like when you work with somebody and best description, take them back into a past life? Or is it like watching a movie? Or are they seeing and everybody's different. Some people are more
Mhm.
visual than others. But what's actually on average? What's the experience like?
Well, you're watching the body because no matter what you think, the body doesn't lie. It's I'm not thinking, I'm following. It's let me see how I can explain it. It's more of a shamanic piece. I hate to sound like I overdid the hot tub here, but but it is that piece where you go into the field where the person is. I'm like I said, I'm following the person, I'm following the story, and I'm helping. The only guiding I'm doing is saying, show me. meaning move your body, show me. A lot of times I don't even have to say that because the body is expressing what conscious thought cannot produce. And, you can think you're making it up, but if, your body is assuming positions and postures and gesturing and feeling pain or whatever it is, this is to bring you through that and to actually release that part of that past life piece um, that that is kind of hanging on to protect you from what they went through so you won't go through it, but they have very limited scope from their lifetime. I mean, if cars weren't invented, you know, hanging around to make sure you don't get run over by a horse and carriage may not exactly be what's needed right now. Okay. So they hang on to us, we hang on to them, and it's a big sense of agency and relief and release. Um, it's just it's an amazing process to watch, and people make connections, just like you said, you make connections. What is it in the present that I am bringing forward from the past that limits me, that makes my parts of my body rigid and holding and painful, and can I let go of that? Of
So I
course.
had my first ever past life regression a few
Uh-huh.
months ago, as before we
Uh-huh.
met. And can I share pieces of that and see if that aligns with what you do and how you do it?
Yes, I just remind you, had a past life regression through hypnotherapy, which is different from what we're talking about. But please tell me
And
what
that's why I
happened.
want to differentiate it between, what we're talking about and what I experienced. So
Mhm,
it was through hypnotherapy, and I'd done hypnotherapy before, very impactful.
mhm,
Went back to my childhood a number of times, a while back with that. Now past life regression. The hypnotherapist took me back again. We skimmed my childhood a little bit. Then we went to what it was like just before I was born and while my mom was pregnant and what
mhm,
she was feeling. And I'm gonna laser this, but go back as it happened. And
mhm,
I was asked, well, what was your mom feeling? Now I know what was going on at the time, so I try to get out of my head, but I was feeling those emotions. Now we go
mhm,
back to a quote unquote past life, and I have to tell you, it it seemed real, like watching a movie. And very briefly put, I was on a farm. There was a horse,
mhm,
and I have an affinity for the 1800s, especially like the mid 1800s on. This is,
mhm,
I believe, where I was. Seemed very real. Okay, is my mind making it up? Am I in my head? Then there were other things that presented where I know I have a partner, wife, whatever. She's nowhere to be found. And I was trying to figure that out. Now I'm sitting there with my eyes closed. So somebody like you is watching. Then I realized, oh my gosh, she had passed. And I was there when she passed. I could see the room and everything. But here's what makes me feel that it was real:
mhm.
the emotion,
Yes.
the body
Yeah.
movement. There's
Hmm.
no way. You watch a movie, sometimes we get a little sad, for what's going on. You kind of
Hmm.
feel what the characters feel. I was in deep mourning of that
Yeah.
situation.
Yeah.
Then that ended. Then I'm in a different situation where I was maybe a year or two, five, whatever, elevated to a point where I was, maybe a politician. I don't do politics, but it's in a town, and I was with somebody else. And that somebody else was looking at me as I'm addressing a bunch of people, and I could see her face and the pride that she had for me, so real. And,
Hmm.
I identified a number of things during
Hmm.
this regression that could be clues to why I do what I do now. All I'm going to say is the emotional part of it
Hmm.
was so
Right.
real. I don't
Right.
believe there's any way I could feel that unless that was a past life.
Yes, that's exactly where we come together on this. The body doesn't lie, the emotions don't lie.
Yeah.
And I imagine that when you got up and saw how much time had passed, you were amazed.
It was,
You know,
yes, there's a
it's
lot.
like, huh? You know.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And so this therapy actually includes some body work sometimes during the piece and resolution as we're going through it.
Hmm.
Not just oh, this happened and that. There is some there's some change that happens in some connection that is made during the process. So it goes a little further than you're describing, but you're absolutely right. You can't make up the emotion. Emotion happens, and the body feels it.
Hmm.
And that's why Reich talked about character structures, and the thing that Wilger does is very interesting. He uses Moreno's psychodrama protocol, where inevitably the past life character, your past life personality, let's call it, gets to a point, and there's a piece where you go, okay, what, say now what you couldn't say then. Who are you talking to? And inevitably, there's a question of, so, well, why did you, and what were you, how come you did this? And that's when you go, okay, exchange places with them. And it's a whole process of just climbing through their bodies, and there's a little more instruction with that, and then we let that personality answer. There's some
Wow.
complexities to it. It's yeah, and it but it's it's truly amazing. So I'll give you an example. I had a client who kept saying, it's nothing to fall on my sword about. And, the first time he said it, okay, fine. The third time he said it, I said, okay, we're going to do it past life. So, he was the leader of this regiment, I don't know, in the 1500s or something like that. And so, and he literally fell off his horse and fell on his sword. But but the but what happened after was that one of the soldiers, a young soldier, came and took care of him.
Hmm.
And he recognized it as his son in this lifetime. And and it occurred to him how he wasn't letting his son take care of him because he felt that he would lose dignity and lose respect. And after he came back, and we had, okay, talk to them, talk to each other. I'm making shortcuts here, obviously, isn't
Hmm.
that right? But when he got up, he had a whole different relationship with his son, completely different. And it was funny because his son was a commander in the local police force. It was just, but after that, he had a completely different past life as an artist and with his wife by his side. And after he did that past life, it wasn't particularly traumatic, except that he was outside the castle gates, in some Renaissance period. And after that, he said, I'm going to take a course in painting. I think that'd be fun.
Hmm.
Today, this guy is a fairly well known in his area painter who's won many awards. And there are people who collect his work. And he does amazing things with color. And
Hmm.
he left his job and he's a painter.
So
That's what he does.
question,
Yeah.
question about
Yeah.
that. So
Uh-huh.
many of us, and I hear it from everybody in my circles, many are trying to figure out what their purpose in life is.
Yeah.
Why am I here? What is, and there is some that
Hmm.
believe we're born with your purpose. It's there. It just needs to be figured out. Would you say that this modality, it sounds like
Hmm.
in
Yeah.
that gentleman's art passion, maybe that was his purpose, and through
Hmm.
the past life regression, that became exposed, and that's the direction he went in?
Yeah, I mean, it's totally possible. It's not for you or me to say. It's that's the beauty of this.
Mm.
It's like, okay, it's sort of like I'll be your travel agent. You tell me where we want to go and I'll book the passage, you know. That, that's just about what it is. But what's interesting about the artist piece is that he then remembered how when he came with when he was, maybe 12, 13, and he came to his mother and he had painted something in school and he was very proud of it and she was very disparaging and he was very shamed and so that part of him got went underground
Mm.
and so when it was he just decided, okay, I'm going to do this. And amazingly, he does incredible work, by the way.
Wow. Would you
Yeah.
say that the past life session
Mm.
was gave him the strength, the freedom, the confidence to
Mhm.
move that forward?
Yes, he remembered how he really loved it, and he
Wow.
why not? He took a course at a junior college in the city, in where he was. He didn't like go, he didn't go to hanging out on the banks of the Seine and try to sell his. He took a course and the teacher saw his talent and he just loved it and there it was. But I think having seen and related to emotionally and physically, and there was a woman involved and having done that, he felt that it wasn't something that he was doing from scratch, that he was picking up something that he had a talent for. And of course, that is a lot of reassurance and support, but it's your own support, it's your own reassurance, you know, different. It's
For
different.
that gentleman with the art passion, was it one session? Was it more than one where that got revealed?
It was one that got revealed. It's funny. Well, that's an interesting point. If I look back on, we were doing a series of past life regressions, and that's kind of interesting to do because there are, what they call samskaras. There's like we've got, you know, one, two, or three big, scars, big wounds to deal with in our lifetimes, right? And occasionally you'll get trickle downs. Everything else is like a trickle down from that. So sometimes you get a trickle down life, it's where something happens and then that leads to a bigger piece, you know. And and the thing is that, sometimes in talk therapy and the therapist will say something and, well, try this, go home and try talking like this to your partner or try breathing when you get upset. And this comes from you.
Yeah.
It's almost like I feel honored to be along for the journey, and that's kind of what it is. And there are some things that I can do where I notice people's movement and what's going on that I can get to something more quickly that they're doing in this lifetime. But it's so fascinating to go into the story. And of course, that's very Jungian. Roger Wilger was a Jungian analyst. And a lot of therapies that kind of come up through that channel, Gestalt and Hakomi, and they've all come up through that lineage. Um, Basically, use imagery
Mm.
and physical movement, and then you have sound, and but there's all kinds of things. Why limit it? And why limit it to lifetimes? You know?
And well, that we didn't even get into that part. We're just about out of time. The fact that it's multiple lifetimes,
Yes. Oh
I
yeah.
tapped into one. That gentleman with the art
Hmm.
passion tapped into one. There's more,
Hmm.
which intrigues me in a big way.
That's right.
How do we connect with you? If somebody and there's, yeah, I would assume that a lot of
Hmm.
this can be done virtually, right?
Yes, I can do it virtually because close your eyes and hear my voice. Either but I prefer in person. And people fly into New York City to, spend, 3 to 6 days doing intensives with
Mm,
me. And that really, that really does change, does move things in their lives. So that is a possibility as well. Yeah, you can text me at 707-235-6341. And I encourage people to text first. Say, I heard you interested in X, and I'll get in touch. Email Shafir, TSHAFIR at me.com. Email, and put something about podcast in the subject line, and I'll be happy to talk with you and see if you want to be adventurous.
beautiful. It's an adventure, and that's life. It's a journey, but this is fascinating, and it holds the answers to a lot. I'm grateful that in this lifetime we get together here and let people learn
Likewise.
about that. Yeah,
No accidents, huh? Yes.
I agree with you for sure. All right, appreciate you being here today. We'll catch up next time.
This is the Global Podcast Network, where executives and professionals connect, share, and inspire. Stay tuned for the conversations that drive success.